So when you think of the Mini brand, this is oftentimes more than just a car company. This brand instantly created a cult following when they came back to America in the early 2000s. So today, I'm just outside of Durango, Colorado on the $1 Million Highway, and we're following along on our way to Keystone Resort with the Mini Takes the States. This is literally an event where 5,000 Mini owners across the country meet up in Keystone, Colorado from the East Coast and the West Coast. And Mini has given me this car to drive. This is a 2018 Mini Cooper Clubman S. This is the car that is slightly bigger than the standard Cooper to give you a little bit more space. So, has Mini done a good job in giving us a car that is slightly more practical for American roads? That's what we're here to find out. So when you look at the Mini lineup here in America, every one of their cars is branded as a Mini Cooper. However, that is kind of just the base name. There's several different trims, or I guess third names, that Mini kind of designates to diversify their lineup. And the Clubman is designed to be basically kind of like a longer station wagon version of the standard Mini hatch. You can see this particular generation is known as the second generation. It first came out back in 2016. And although the styling is instantly recognizable as a Mini, some of you may have to squint at it to actually notice some of the different styling changes. As you guys know, it has all the corporate Mini design language here. You have the kind of bug-eye circular headlights. This particular one has an optional full LED upgrade where you have an LED running light, LED low and high beams. My tester also has these fog lights at the bottom here. And then you'll also notice, because it's an S, you have the signature hood scoop, its own unique body kit and front fascia work. And then a lot of the scoops that you see here are actually functional, that let air kind of in to cool the intercooler. So looking at the side profile of the Clubman, you're going to notice again, it looks exactly like the Mini hatch. A lot of the styling elements from like the B-pillar forward are basically just carried over from the Mini hatch, and then the rest of the profile is changed when you kind of get past the B-pillar. Now, because my tester is the S, it has the standard 17-inch wheels that are with a black finish. These are in 225/40 series tires. This particular one has the all-season tires, which are run flats. You can also get a temporary spare if you guys want for like $100. And although Minis are very small vehicles, this particular one is one of the largest Minis they make. It's actually just a tad smaller than the Countryman. It's like 1.5 inches smaller. Now, when you compare this to the last generation Clubman, this thing grew by a foot, and its wheelbase was also stretched by about 5 inches. It's about a foot longer than the standard Mini 4-door hardtop. So this is a pretty big vehicle by Mini standards. However, at 105 inches long in the wheelbase and 168 inches long overall, it's only about the same size as something like a Honda Civic hatch or a Mazda 3. So it's really not that big, but it's big by Mini standards. Now at the back, again, you can see a lot of the styling elements are unique to the Clubman. You have the traditional barnyard style doors where this kind of opens up from the middle, and it also has a new rear taillight, and this is going to kind of distinguish this as the Clubman in addition to the badging. The S model gives you the dual exhaust tips. There's also a John Cooper Works that has its own unique exhaust, and then just like all of the other Mini products, you can customize this to your liking. The roof can be changed. This one has a black colored roof. You can also get like a white roof. You can get the racing stripes on it, and because the Clubman is a little bit bigger, you do get more cargo space versus the standard Mini hatch. You can see here, this opens up in 2 ways, which is pretty unique. I actually really like that. There is some stuff in here right now because we are here with Harman Kardon for the Mini Takes the State events, but you're looking at around 17.5 cubic feet of space with the seats up. That's roughly 7 cubic feet more than what you get for the standard 5-door hatch. Fold down the seats, and Mini says you actually get 47 cubic feet of space. That's actually double what you get in the standard car, and that's about the same as what you get in something like a Mazda 3 or a Honda Civic hatchback. So the cargo area has definitely been improved, but overall it's still a little bit on the smaller size. So if you guys want a little bit more, you may have to look at the actual Mini Countryman. So for 2019, Mini has actually made the standard equipment list a little bit more thorough. This one, being an 18, does have the optional comfort access package that gives you the smart key access system with intelligent key. You can see here's the current Mini key fob. If you don't have it, you have to stick the key into a slot in the ignition, similar to a lot of BMW products. Now, as you approach the door with a smart entry, you'll find a button on the outside of the door handle. Just touch that button, it locks the door for you. To unlock it, there's no sensor on the back of the handle. You have to touch the button again, and that unlocks the door for you. Now, this particular one has the black Sensitech leatherette. It's a faux leather material, kind of similar to BMW. The S gives you a little bit more aggressive bolstering on the seats, and you have the thigh support. My Tester also has a $1,500 optional power seat package with 2-person memory, which is definitely a nice feature to have. Now, getting inside the vehicle, you can see it definitely has that low to the ground feel that you associate with Minis, and then when you shut the door sounds decent. It's a rather solid sounding door. Now, looking at the interior, you can see I haven't been in a newer Mini product in a while, and you can see they've taken a lot of steps to upgrading this interior in terms of the tech interface, in terms of making it a little bit more ergonomically sound, a little bit more useful. To start the vehicle up, Mini puts the start button down here. It's a little toggle. They're still doing that, so put your foot on the brake, push the button here to fire up the engine. And then, of course, you hear that BMW chime, and then My Tester has an optional head-up display, which is very similar to Mazda and the new Hyundai Kona with the flip-up screen. The engine itself, it sounds like a typical turbo 4-cylinder. I'll be showing you guys a video hopefully on the John Cooper Works soon, and we'll compare the sound. Now, the materials in here, this is a pretty expensive car, so how are the materials? Well, it is a soft touch graining material here on the upper dashboard. You have lots of chrome, piano black plastic. There's kind of like a carbon fiber look trim here to go with the piano black plastic. On the door handle here, or the door panel, it's soft touch, but not very super soft. You have a chrome accented door handle here. It's slightly padded here, a nice little place to put your phone. The windows are one touch up and down express for all 4, which is definitely nice. My Tester doesn't have the power folding mirrors, but that is an option. And then the steering wheel here, you can see it's the current Mini steering wheel. It has really nice grip extensions. It has a nice leather wrap. My Tester is missing the optional paddle shifters, which you get in like a sport package if you guys want that, to go with the 8-speed automatic. The gauges, you can see Mini has moved them to right where they are supposed to be. In the past, they put a big speedo here, which was just kind of annoying to use. This is definitely nice. The gauge font is different. It's rather minimalistic, actually. I'm surprised, they're not doing some kind of like a full LCD, but this is kind of going in a more traditional way with Mini. My Tester also has the optional Harman Kardon sound system, which is a 12-speaker, 360-watt sound system. It sounds incredible. Really good bass, really good, treble effect. If you turn it up, it doesn't get distorted. It also doesn't, overpower you with all the bass, which is nice. Here is the 8.8-inch head unit, which is actually a version of BMW's iDrive. It's now a touchscreen, you can see here, which is definitely nice. There's a home display over there. The touch response is pretty good. You have your music, you have your phone, you have your connectivity sources. You can also use the iDrive Lite controller here, which has kind of been custom or changed to go with the Mini brand. The buttons here they don't feel kind of as tactile and as satisfying when you use them. But overall, it's still pretty nice. The fact that this is an 8.8-inch screen definitely doesn't look like an 8.8-inch screen because the bezel here is so large. I also like the LED light here that kind of changes as you scroll around the menu, which I think is pretty cool. Let's go over to the map display here. You can see this is basically the BMW map display, which is pretty good. It gets the job done. It's also very quick. It works like a tablet. It has the pinch, zoom, swipe capability. It also includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is definitely nice. That is optional, of course, typical BMW Mini fashion. Down here you have dual zone climate control, which is included on the signature trim and up. If you guys go for a 19, you have all your buttons down here with more toggles for the parking sensor. Your drive mode selector is over here. You can go between a sport, mid, and then a green mode for an eco mode, basically. Over here you have a USB port, a little bit more storage here for your phone, cup holders. This controls the 8-speed automatic transmission. It's a ZF automatic when you put the vehicle into reverse. You also get a pretty good backup camera which has front and rear parking sensors with trajectory. This is very much similar to what I've seen in some current BMW products. So again, that's really great that Mini's doing that. This is also a handwriting touchpad if you guys want to use that. So you have your option between a touch screen or the touchpad. You have an electronic parking brake there. This is slightly padded right here, but you do get a nice wireless charging pad here that really fit my phone nicely, that adjusts to all different sizes of phone. Open this up, you have a little bit more storage, and then one more USB port. There's 2 USB ports in total. My Tester also has an optional panoramic sunroof that lets in a good amount of light. You can see it'll tilt open and then it'll open up completely. The seats, I found them to be a little bit on the hard side. They hug you nicely, but I wish they were just a little bit softer. So try the seats out before you buy this car. But I mean, the interior room in here is very good. There's a decent sized glove compartment here that's not lined with felt, but it is damped. I mean, overall, the visibility in here is good. It has a lot of character, which is definitely nice. If you guys are so sick of like things like a Civic, a Corolla, a Mazda 3, a Golf, the Mini Cooper Clubman definitely will kind of give you that character, but they've also adapted the ergonomics to kind of be a little bit more usable for everyday usage here in America. So the whole reason why you bought the Clubman is because you needed more rear seat space. So how does the space compare in this car when you get into the back seat? Well, I have to say, I haven't sat in the just the standard Mini, but I will say that the back seat space here is pretty usable. I'm 5'7". This is where I have the seat to drive, and I actually could get relatively comfortable back here. There's good foot space here. There is a pretty large hump that takes up your foot room, but I like the fact that Mini has given you, soft touch materials back here. There's one-touch windows. There's some speakers for the Harman Kardon sound system. There are rear seat vents back here, and then a cigarette outlet. Now, a couple things it is missing: no heated rear seats, no USB ports, but I do like the panoramic sunroof that is on this particular one that lets in a little bit more light. There's also a nice little armrest here that folds down that gives you cup holders, and honestly, when I look at the switchgear and parts here, it looks like it came right out of a BMW. But I mean, overall, the back seat is pretty usable in the Clubman, so if you need more space, make sure you guys go for this particular model. So Minis have always been fun cars, and the fun technically will always start underneath the hood. So for the latest generation of the Clubman, Mini has actually replaced all the engines for 2016. These are now BMW-derived engines. This particular one, because it's an S, has a 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. This is the same engine that you'll find in something like a BMW X1 or an X2. Now in the S, it's been detuned slightly to make 189 horsepower and 207 pound-feet of torque. Now, of course, if you guys want to go to another trim of this car, the base Cooper will come with a 1.5-liter 3-cylinder turbo, while the John Cooper Works will have like the full-on BMW version with 228 horsepower. Now, this one, because it's a Clubman, is significantly bigger and significantly heavier. It weighs around 3,300 pounds. If you guys get all-wheel drive, it adds about 200 more pounds of weight. Now, between the transmissions, you can take your pick between a 6-speed manual, which is standard, or an 8-speed automatic. This particular one has the 8-speed auto. I love how Mini offers the manual on the front or all-wheel drive model, so that's a huge plus. This one, because it's a front-wheel drive with the automatic, is rated at 23 in the city, 32 on the highway. You need to put premium gas in it. Let's get out on the road and see how it performs, shall we? So I turned off the traction control there when the car's kind of complaining to me that I did do it, and I was surprised. I was expecting this thing to have a lot more wheel spin and torque steer. I have the front wheel drive model, which is probably how most people are going to buy these, but I'm on this curvy back road here, or not really a curvy back road. I'm on the $1 Million Highway where we're going through the mountains here in Colorado, and this is probably the perfect place to drive a car like the Mini Cooper Clubman. It's just a really fun car. It's got really great steering, but I got this little straight here. I'm going to try another acceleration before it starts raining. We'll turn that off again. So Mini says this one will get to 60 in about 6.9 seconds. It actually feels a little sluggish, but I will say I do have an extra person and all of our stuff in the car, so it's probably not weighing at 3,300 pounds. It's probably like around 30, maybe 38, 3,600 pounds, something like that. There's a good amount of weight in this car, and we're also at elevation, but the S model is definitely the one you want to go for if you plan to do a little bit of enthusiastic driving. The base 3-cylinder, which I haven't driven, takes like 9 seconds to get to 60. So this one definitely has a good amount of power for somebody who isn't gonna, doesn't want to get into too much trouble, but you can still have a little bit of fun when the road gets twisty. Now, the steering in this car is such a high point. I mean, it's an electric power steering assist, but the car responds so quickly to my inputs. One thing I am noticing though is the body. It leans a lot. Even in its sport setting, it's got the dynamic chassis controller, so the adaptive dampers in this particular one, but I definitely feel the body leans a lot. You feel the weight of this car compared to the standard Mini, but as you can see here, I'm going around this corner. This car really hugs the road pretty well, and then when my foot's to the floor here, definitely feel all the weight that this has. But the engine itself sounds interesting. Mini is definitely kind of piping in the interior or the speakers or the engine noise through the speakers. It's got that fake induction noise. I don't know if it sounds great. Of course, if you guys want a little bit more sound, there's the John Cooper Works version, which I haven't had a chance to drive yet. Hopefully I'll get to show you guys that later, since I will be driving that later on tomorrow. But the 8-speed automatic in this car is definitely a high point. It is pretty quick to respond. It's got smooth shifts. It's a traditional ZF automatic, so can't really complain there. If you guys go for the 3-cylinder, the base motor, it actually has the older 6-speed automatic. I would love to try this car with the 6-speed manual. Surprisingly, at the Mini Takes the State events, a lot of the owners that I saw with this car have the manual. So that's just kind of brings joy to my eyes that a lot of people still are choosing the manual with this car. And you have to give Mini credit for offering this car with a stick, even with all-wheel drive, which is definitely a great addition. But one thing that they've really improved upon for this car is the ride quality. Minis in the past just had a really awful ride quality. They were stiff, they were bouncy, it was noisy. And this one, even in its sports setting, it rides really comfortably. I mean, on a longer trip, we're driving this car, 6 hours, and aside from the seats, which I can't really get too comfortable in, which is why you need to try the seats out, I think the ride is just fine. It rides just like, a Honda Civic hatch, a Mazda 3 hatch, a Volkswagen Golf hatch. It's got a really controlled, damped ride with pretty good visibility out of the front. Side mirrors are big. This particular one is missing the driver assistance stuff. It does have automatic emergency braking, but no adaptive cruise, no blind spot monitoring with your cross traffic alert. So Mini, again, they don't make that standard because this is BMW, and BMW makes you pay extra for everything. But I mean, overall, in terms of the overall dynamics, it's still a pleasantly fun car to drive, and it's definitely big by Mini standards, but if you guys are coming from like something like a mid-size sedan, this is still going to feel really small. In fact, the interior of this car, despite it being bigger, one of the biggest Minis, is still a little bit on the cramped side for longer road trips when you have all your stuff. You have somebody who's over 6 feet tall. But it's easy to see why a lot of people really find the Mini brand super appealing. It's just iconic. It's got a lot of character. But I'm really more anxious to kind of try out the John Cooper Works version of this car because that's the one that gives you, an extra 30 plus horsepower. And Mini says it improves the 0 to 60 time by nearly a second. Now, in terms of the fuel economy, I haven't really been paying attention too much to the gas mileage because, I'm on this trip. I'm kind of just getting a feel for the car. But at 23 in the city, 32 on the highway, I looked at the trip computer at one point and it was showing me 27 miles per gallon pretty easily. So I imagine those of you who drive a little bit more conservatively will easily kind of get those fuel economy figures. But I mean, overall, you can finally take a Mini Cooper Clubman on a road trip like this, a long road trip, and you no longer have to kind of make the compromise of dealing with a terrible ride quality or dealing with a really noisy cabin. So when the Mini brand first came back to America in the early 2000s, I have to admit, I was a huge fan of the car. I loved the cute, iconic styling, I loved the go-kart-like handling, and I also liked the power that we got from the original supercharged engine. And honestly, I didn't realize just how big of a cult following Mini has brought here in America until I attended the Mini Takes the State events and meeting and seeing all these owners customize and drive their cars. And literally some of them had the original car that I saw back in 2002. So that brings me to the 2018 Mini Cooper Clubman S. This is a car that Mini has really tailored a little bit more toward the American market. And one of my biggest issues with the new car that came out back in the early 2000s was its bone-chattering ride quality. And I'm happy to report that Mini has really addressed that with this particular model. Although, as you guys saw from the test drive, it's not quite as sporty as the standard hardtop because, with a bigger vehicle, you're going to add more weight. Its suspension is a little bit softer, but you get that better ride quality in return. So if you guys actually need space to put people in the back and in the trunk, and you want something a little bit more different, a little bit more iconic versus something like a Mazda 3 or a Honda Civic or a Volkswagen Golf, you can just definitely put this 2018 Mini Cooper Clubman at the top of your list. So if you guys are actually wanting to purchase one, what's it going to cost to put one of these in your driveway? Well, that's kind of the biggest issue with Minis is they're expensive. Now, in general, the Cooper Clubman starts at $24,500. That's not too bad. It's definitely on the topper end if you look at this, the mainstream brands. This particular one, because it's an S, starts like $4,000 more. It's just a tick under $29,000. And then for 2019, Mini has kind of addressed some of the trim structures. There's like a signature, there's a classic, and then there's an iconic. This one is kind of equipped similarly to a signature trim, which starts around $32,000. This one, of course, having a lot of options. Mini is owned by BMW, of course, between the automatic transmission, the upgraded navigation with Harman Kardon sound system, the LED headlights. This one has equipped stickers for a rather eye-watering $39,500, which is a ridiculous amount of money. And on paper, it can seem like Mini is really kind of a ripoff, but when you start driving the car, you fall in love with the brand, you fall in love with the overall package and just the iconic look. It's easy to see why this particular car, or in Mini in general, has a lot of fans here in America. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 Mini Cooper Clubman S. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. think I want to do something else. I'm at 40 miles right now, so we obviously still have more time. What did I not talk about?
I don't know, you could talk about how I'm fat another time. 3 different times.
I never said you were fat.
There's some people in the car that's weighing it down.
But all of our shit too, it's heavy. The car feels sluggish, actually. I'm a little surprised.
A little bit.
A little sluggish. It's like, wow. Wowzers.
Holy shit. Is that really a good place we could have parked to do it there? Yeah.
I'm hoping the John Cooper Works makes me more, gets me more excited. Because this car's kind of, I don't know, it's a little neutered.